Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining the broadcast this evening. We're glad that the town hall session is back this evening as we deal with a very important topic, which we've called mobilizing of citizens for good governance in Nigeria specifically. And we're picking Nigeria because we think that at this point in time, Nigeria is going through a transition, and good governance is certainly something that we need in that country. And joining us today, we have two guests who will help us to dissect the conversation today, the topic today, as we break it down into the components and we see how our thoughts on this platform could help to shape what people think, how people act, and potentially will help to aid the transformation that is taking place in Nigeria, and we will be a part of that progress. So to help us on that journey this evening, we've got two really special guests. We've got Dr. Adeyemi Oshunrinade. He's an expert in law, foreign relations, and the United Nations. He's the author of Wills, Law, and Contests. Also, he's written another book called Constitutional Law, First Amendment. He's also written something on criminal law, homicide. And he's got another book that is coming out very soon called Saving Love. And yet another incoming book, actually. This one is called Medical Malpractice in Health Law. So Dr. Oshunrinade is not new to the legal implications of some of the changes that we may be looking for in the context of Nigeria. Doctor, you're very welcome to the program this evening.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Fantastic. Also, this evening, we've got someone who is a friend of the house. He's been on our programs about 2 or 3 times now. And in fact, one of the programs he was on where we talked about gender-related issues is one of the most commented on broadcasts that we've done on the platform. Like I said, he's a friend of the house. He's a general psychiatrist, and he focuses on child and adolescent psychiatry. He's based in Michigan. He's board certified in adult psychiatry. And he's a recipient of many awards. He's a recipient of the MacArthur Foundation Award, which he received in 2003. In 2007, he was also a recipient of the Joan D'Amato Award for Excellence by the American College of Radiology and Imaging Network. In 2017, he was also the recipient of the American Psychiatry Association Diversity Leadership Award. He's an expert in this area. And from 2016, 2018, Dr. Osuagwu is also the chairman of the American Psychiatry Association Caucus on Climate Change and Mental Health. And more importantly, the aspect that we want to see today is the work that he's doing with the healthcare workers for good governance and the Doctors for Good Governance initiative. Because I think these are very important initiatives that will help to drive this conversation forward. Just before we go on, I'd like to say that at the moment we are live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, and if you do want to comment, please just raise your hand. I will try to get to your comments, and we can have hopefully a very interesting conversation. So thank you all for joining. Like I usually joke when I start this, there are no ground rules on fire plan on an online event. So it's all great. So let's get into it. I'm going to deal with the elephant in the room. And that elephant in the room is somebody asked me this as soon as the flyer went out. A lot of people said to me that all of you are based in the diaspora. What do you know about good governance in Nigeria, and how do you want to tackle that? You know, you guys are all somewhere else, and you're doing this stuff somewhere else. You know, how do you want to handle this? So, Dr. Osuagwu, let me start with you on that particular point. If you can share your views on that point with us.
Thank you very much. Are we able to mute the? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for the question. And it's a very, very important question because I've been living in the US now for a long time. However, I still consider myself as somebody who can speak to what's going on in Nigeria, because originally that was where I was born. That was where I was raised. My formative years from elementary school to the university level was there in Nigeria. And I still visit Nigeria very frequently, and things that happen in Nigeria also affect me. If I need to go to Nigeria, I need to get a Nigerian passport. And the government of the day has a lot of leeway in determining how soon I get that passport, how well I get it, and the whole way to get things done for me if I need to engage in any activity in Nigeria. And then more importantly, I have been working with a group of fantastic people known as the Healthcare Professionals for Good Governance and Doctors for Good Governance. And we have been actively involved in what is going on in Nigeria and looking for ways to actually change course by contributing our own little quota. So with that, I humbly feel like I'm more than well versed and equipped to speak about what is going on about governance in Nigeria. Thank you.
Excellent. Dr. Oshunrinade, can I get your view on that point before we go ahead?
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure. First of all, I would like to say my heart goes to people of Nigeria, home and abroad, that are feeling the impact of the insecurity in the country. Think about the kidnappings, the killings, the robberies, and the rapes and all that. Now, to your question, I don't think you have to be a Nigerian to be concerned about what is going on there. Anywhere in the world you live, you hear of wars in one country or the other, Afghanistan, Iraq, and all those places. And when those things happen, you find the international community, they react, they respond. Be it the United Nations, they send humanitarian aid and all that. Now, from my part, I have to say that what goes on in Nigeria concerns me. I'm partly Nigerian, as you know. And as long as you've got families in the country, you have to feel what is going on there, directly or indirectly. There are Nigerians who depend on maybe their son or daughter abroad. They depend on the remittances, many other things like that. And as we live in other parts of the world, we always hope and pray for the well-being of our families. So irrespective of whether you are Nigerian or not, I just feel it is part of humanity to feel the impact of what is going on there. That is my own side of the story, though I'm also partly Nigerian. So that's the way I see things here.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So let us get into the core of the topic for today, and that is where we start to look at the subject of good governance. And I think we should break good governance down before we start to look at it in the context of Nigeria, because we used to have the United States as the model, the leaders in democracy, the leaders in what one could have referred to as good governance. But January 6th turned that around for everybody. Now, Dr. Oshunrinade, you are a foreign relations expert. You are well versed in all these areas. From your point of view, um, how far behind is Nigeria when you talk about good governance? And who do we look to for good governance?
Well, I have to say Nigeria is so far behind, considering what is going on right now. First, you have to think about since, let's say, for example, 1960, when the country gained independence. You have the First Republic, the Second Republic, and the Third Republic politicians. It's been the same cycle of governance. And so far, nothing else. We cannot say anything in the country has changed or moved forward. I mean, common citizens don't even have the necessities of life. Then think about the corruption and all that. The leadership is like almost becoming generational. The same people have been ruling the country for so long, and now they are passing it to their children. Now, if you have the father who was maybe a member of the Senate that was corrupt, and then probably a few years after, you have the son also who became a member of the Senate. Now, what do you expect? Do you think the same father who groomed a son to be corrupt wouldn't want him to do exactly what he did when he was in charge? So I think there are so many things wrong with the system in Nigeria right now that needs to change. The country needs reform. The rule of law is totally messed up. The politicians, they are so incompetent. If you look at, it's not that they are not educated. These people, some of them have been abroad, they studied here, but they just don't know how to govern. They go back and do something else. So with the situation in the country right now, there is need for change. You can hear the alarm bell ringing. Just think about the killings. The whole country is in chaos. And it seems right now the person in charge, the president, can no longer handle the situation in the country. Now, if I want to talk about a good model for governance, well, despite what is going on in the United States, I think the United States still remains a model for good governance. Think about the Western countries as well, the United Kingdom, be it Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and all those areas. If you have traveled around the world, you will understand what I'm saying. So, irrespective of the situation in this part of the world, especially the United States as per January 6th, I think this part of the world, the West and the United States, remains a good model for good governance. Yeah.
Thank you for that perspective. There are two things I want to pick from there, and I wonder if Dr. Osuagwu would be able to help us with that particular point. And Dr. Osuagwu, the point is this. From your perspective, what does good governance look like? I know you're working with this initiative of healthcare workers for good governance. What are you trying to get across? What message are you trying to get across? So that's the first question. The second question for you, picking up on something that Dr. Oshunrinade mentioned there, and that is the fact that some of our current politicians are grooming their children to take on positions. You are involved in child and adult psychiatry. What is going on in the minds of people in that state, and how do we address that? So 2 questions. One is, how do we address the mindset? The second one is, what is your view of good governance given the work you are doing with the groups that you're a part of?
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, those are actually very good questions. Now, if you look at the if you're trying to give a definition of what good governance is, good governance is supposed to help to put down institutional modalities that would run the society and make the society a place that is safe for everybody. They can thrive, there can be economic prosperity, and they can generally live life in a way that is worthy of living. Now, if you look at all those indices today in Nigeria, it's almost zero. The economy has tanked. The currency has been devalued. It's never been devalued like this since I've known things going on in Nigeria. Security is no longer there, to the extent that the Federal Capital Territory, it's almost under siege. Even when the country was under civil war, we never had it that bad. We had Lagos as the old capital. The country had civil war for 3 years. There was never a time that the rebels or anybody was able to put the country capital under siege. But today, we are claiming that we are under a democratic government. We are claiming that we have a government in Abuja, and yet ordinary people cannot go about without feeling insecure in the country's capital. I mean, apart from countries that has been at war, like maybe when Ukraine and Russia went to war, the capital is sacrosanct. And if your capital can be overrun by ragtag bandits, it just shows that all the indices and the metrics you need to look at in terms of good governance, it's not there. Now, for us as a nation, I know historically we like to talk about the fact that we are a democratic country. We have tried this experiment so many times to try to have civilians in government. However, what the democratic tenets are supposed to be is supposed to be government by the people for the people. Okay. However, what we have managed to borrow is just the name democracy. In terms of the practicality of what we practice in Nigeria, is actually government of the elites for the elites. So they get in there, institutionalize themselves, and then they are clueless and incompetent when it comes to running things on an everyday. Now, Dr. Oshunrinade made one important point where he said, these are educated people, but then they are running the country aground. I would like to paraphrase that I don't think these are educated people. These are people who can read and write. Yes, they could have PhDs, they could have professorate degrees, they could have doctorates. Education is an all-encompassing thing. If you're educated, you will understand the fact that there is a limit to resources which you should accumulate for yourself. You take just what you need. If you're so gluttonous and greedy that you keep amassing lots of resources for yourself, I don't think you're educated. You're just somebody who can read and write. So a lot of the people who rule us today in Nigeria, they can read and write, but in terms of the overall education of what makes you a whole sane human being, I don't think that is the case. Now, the other thing is, these people have gotten there. They have succeeded in institutionalizing corruption to such Byzantine complexity that it's almost mind-boggling what they have turned the country into. For example, I give you an example. Recently, it was brought to the media that the excess crude oil account, which was accrued money from excess crude oil that was supposed to be used for rainy days, has been totally depleted. Now, imagine if you're a father in a home and you get extra income. You do know you need to set aside some for rainy day, for if things go bad. The only thing these people know how to do, who are present leaders, is how to squander and spend, and they have absolutely nothing to show for it. Now, they are telling us this hocus pocus story about how they use it for security. The Federal Capital Territory has been overrun. The presidency is under siege. They are still having meetings upon meetings. Meanwhile, the security situation has not changed. Now, in terms of what they have also done, which is putting their children there, it just speaks to that level of incompetence and the willingness to institutionalize incompetence by the ruling class. So Nigeria is being ruled by incompetent people who have institutionalized incompetence and who are willing to put their children, relatives, cronies to continue to institutionalize this incompetence. That is the only thing that is working in Nigeria, the institution of incompetence. When people look at someone like Joe Biden, like I know a lot of argument in Nigeria about the age of the people who are running for president and stuff, and they're like, no, but America has a very old president. Donald Trump was old. America has institutions that work. They can run on autopilot. So Joe Biden and Trump don't need to do much because the institutions are there. We don't have those institutions. The only institution we have that is thriving in Nigeria today, you can quote me anywhere, is the institution of incompetence and corruption at the highest level. Thank you.
Doctor, let me pick you up on a point that you've raised there. Let's deal with the bit about putting their children in power and in these positions. If I pick the United States, right, the Kennedy family is a well-known family. And we've had a lot of Kennedys in quite significant position. If you look at the Clinton family, we've again, the wife was running for president of the United States as well. If you look at the Bush family, yet again, you see a family, in fact, both of them, father and son, have been president of the same nation. Yes, I agree that we don't have a lot of them, but it's happening in the United States anyway. Why is it such a problem for it to be happening in Nigeria? And I just picked the United States. There are other countries where you've got it happen as well.
Yes, you're right. It has happened here. But like I said before, they have institutions that could safeguard and ensure that things are run properly. Now, even though someone like, say, George Bush Jr. was quote unquote seen as a president that wasn't really good by yardsticks that people used to judge him back then before Donald Trump came on board. However, the institutions were there and there are things that he cannot do. Now, for us as a nation, like I said, we have institutions of corruption and incompetence. So if our institutions are not robust to prevent somebody from cornering the whole commonwealth of the nation to themselves, if we allow such individuals who have been shown to be incompetent and corrupt to keep perpetuating themselves by putting their children there who perpetuate this same level of incompetence and corruption, and these children are not beholden to the Nigerian populace, they are only beholden to the people who put them there. It is a situation for anarchy and chaos. This happened in Sri Lanka. I hope Nigeria will not be Sri Lankanized. The Sri Lankan government had a family that had run the show for a very long time. And we see what happened to that country because there were no checks and balances. That was a country where institutionalized corruption was put in place by a family, and the rest of the country went to sleep and left them like that. For us in Nigeria, our ruling class are those people who have institutionalized this corruption, and they are perpetuating themselves by putting their cronies, their children, family members. If we don't break that now, we may not have a country to call our own again.
All right, I'll come back to you, but I want to ask Dr. Oshunrinade this because, again, these are questions that we've had from so many angles. All right, wherever I turn, I hear these conversations every day. Right, we all have ideas. How do you make change happen? How do you make it happen in Nigeria? How do you stop that senator from putting their son, their daughter in that next influential position? It's not illegal to do that, is it? Dr. Oshunrinade, how do you respond to that?
Well, you made example of the United States recently. Now you have to understand the Constitution is well defined in the United States. There are things the president can do and things he cannot do, even if you're a member of Senate or a member of the House. Also, we have what is called the rule of law. So the law is well defined. If you break the law, you go to jail. And also, you have to remember in the United States, for example, when you are in the position of power, if you're a politician, it is considered a service. Unlike in Nigeria, people see it as a job. That's why they have been able to get away with a lot of things. So if you want to compare both countries, you have to think about in one place, they have the rule of law that is well defined. The Constitution spells out what you can do and what you cannot do. If you take, for example, the Constitution of Nigeria, it's so sad to say, but it's just worth less than the paper it is written on. People break the law. You have jungle justice everywhere. You have all these leaders, politicians who do things and get away with impunity. But in a country where you have the law well spelled out and it is enforced, okay, it's going to be difficult to have those in power who just do whatever they feel they can do because they know they have the power to maybe influence the judge or the police so they get away with everything. So the difference I'm trying to make is that you have one country where the laws are well defined and they are enforced. Also, the Constitution is almost like rigid, but you know your limits, your boundaries. But in Nigeria, that is not the case. That is why you have all these politicians doing whatever they want because they know they're in power. They are power drunk. They know how to get away with things. And at the end of the day, who is going to arrest them? Who is going to charge them? So that is the problem I think we have in Nigeria, unlike here in the United States.
Yes, but how do we bring change? I think that's the key question on everyone's mind. And Dr. Osuagwu, you are part of this group trying to call for good governance, even within not just in the nation, but also within your own groups there. How do you bring the change? I've had people say things about the Constitution of Nigeria. It's not great. We need to go back to the last constitution that really made sense for the country. And my question has always been, how do you change the constitution of a nation given where we are today? And that's the question I'm putting forward to you. You're calling for good governance. How do we make the change? What are the three things, four things, five things that we need to do to effect the change for that Nigerian that's on the street, that Nigerian that's saying, I need good governance, right? What is it that you've got to do to make them change? And before I let you respond to that, please hear this. I know a lot of people, I've had a lot of stories of people who are saying, I don't really care who's in government. I'm just concerned about where my next meal is going to come from, right? I would happily take 5,000 naira and give you my vote. That's the kind of mindset we're dealing with. How do you change that? Dr. Osuagwu, if you want to respond to that.
Thank you very much. So those are very good questions. And unfortunately, it's not very simple to give just one solution that can fit everything. However, a very critical part of finding solution is to start by citizen engagement and involvement. For example, in the context of Nigeria, our electoral practices has been such that voter apathy has been huge for us. The Independent Electoral Commission has tried in so many ways to try to ginger the Nigerian populace to come out to vote. And usually on that day, a lot of Nigerians take that as a holiday. And then the few ones who want to go and sell their votes might come out. This is the first time in Nigerian electoral history that a seismic change has happened. A certain individual came out to contest, and the amount of enthusiasm and the willingness of ordinary Nigerian citizens to get engaged in the political process, it's unprecedented. We've never had it like this before. And the whole establishment in Nigeria is actually pleasantly shocked because they know that this is not what they have experienced before. It's no longer business as usual. So if we can engage the citizens to understand that power actually belongs to you, not to the establishment or to the ruling class, it will go a long way in sending that message to the ruling class that they can be voted out or voted in until we get it right. So that's one piece of the puzzle. We do know that the Nigerian context is such that you will hear people use the term structure, and that is how these people have managed to entrench themselves in the whole governance of the nation. And like I've told people within my sphere of influence, that the euphemism for structure in Nigerian context is vote buying, toggery, voter intimidation, and corruption. That's just the plain truth. It has nothing to do with engaging people to convince them on issues and facts to get them to vote. If you look at the three people running for elections currently, two of them have been granted interviews. The third one, who is the Lion of Bodilion, if I may use that word to describe him, I haven't had him give any interview about what he's going to do for the country. Why is that? Because that has been the trend. If you look at the previous elections also, the incumbent or the people who see themselves at the front runner don't feel the need to engage the public because they feel like they can always find unscrupulous ways to get into power. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar gave one interview to Arise News, and that's the only time he has spoken. Now, the other candidate, Peter Obi, has given myriads of interviews. Granted, people, jump on him and, call, try to pick through all what he's saying. But what I'm trying to bring out is that disdain and arrogance of the political class can be clipped by the citizens if the citizens are well engaged. Get your PVC, come out to vote, make sure your votes count. Don't leave, stay there. They cannot kill all of you in all the polling booths in Nigeria. It's not possible. So stay there. Make sure your vote counts.
Well, doctor, let me pick you there. You say that, but someone on the field in Nigeria would say it's easy for you to say. You are not in the country. You're not the one standing by a polling booth who's going to get shot at. You see, so how do you draw that balance to say people should go out and yes, not all of them would be shot, but what if they get shot?
I agree with you. And that is the reason why we need to put in strong institutions. But the counter argument to that is because we are scared of what the ruling class will do, should we fold our arms and not go out on that day? Not going out on that day is not an option. And like you talked about the group that I belong to, the Doctors for Good Governance and Healthcare Workers for Good Governance, we actually are throwing our own money into voter registration, engaging people to get their PVCs, engaging people in terms of enlightening them that don't sell your votes. Don't. I mean, it may sound cliche. Think of your father, think of your mother, think of your children. When you're selling this vote for 5,000, is it worth it? Okay, do not sell your vote. This is the only way you have to make sure that you ensure some sense of sanity for yourself going forward. You sell your vote for 5,000, 10,000, and then tomorrow you get kidnapped or you are not able to run your services or businesses because you don't have electricity. That money that you collected is gone. So citizen engagement, education is key. Yes, there are going to be challenges. We get that. but we cannot let go. We have to keep drumming this into our people's mind that power truly belongs to them, not to the incompetent.
Hold that thought. Let me go to Dr. Oshunrinade and ask this question. And it's a critical one, I think, for all of us. We talk about some of these things, right? Having your son, your daughter in power. I know in the US there are lobby groups that help to push things through. In the UK, you have groups that would do things, yes, within the confines of the law. Dr. Oshunrinade, from your perspective as a law a law person, someone who has studied criminal law and all these things, what's wrong in doing that? What's wrong in putting my son forward for a senatorial role if I happen to be, maybe a minister in the country? What's wrong with putting my wife forward for a senatorial role? She's her own person, he's his own person. There is nothing legally that says I couldn't do that. What is your take on that, Dr. Oshunrinade, from a legal perspective?
Actually, there's nothing wrong in doing that. The only problem is when you begin to leave what is supposed to be your duty, and then you digress into something else. Let's go back to corruption. That's where it starts, okay? You get public fund. It's supposed to be used for services, maybe for building roads. You've got railways, things like that. But instead of doing that, you begin to digress into other fields. For example, maybe you need a contractor. This is what happens a lot in Nigeria. You look for, oh, there's a family member somewhere. And then you call that family member, you negotiate, backdoor. Later, you give the money for the contract. We don't see the work done, or the money is gone. So you can have your family member in position of power, but the moment you begin to move away from what is supposed to be your duty as a leader, and then you begin to engage in self-interest, then you are breaking the law. That is where there should be separation. Now, you said something about how can we have change in Nigeria? It's something that Dr. Osuagwu just talked about. Look, I believe that this should start from the grassroots, the citizens themselves. The Nigerian people, the electorate, should begin to do away with short-sighted politics and ephemeral satisfaction. Now, I'm going to explain. Let's say you have a candidate. He offers a bag of rice, a liter of oil, sugar, money, and now they are even giving cell phones, for example. Okay, the mindset of an average Nigerian is like, oh, if I can get this, that means the guy is going to be a good leader, all right? But that is not always the case. They seek for the satisfaction that moment. I'm talking about the electorate in Nigeria. They get the satisfaction from whoever the candidate is, be it money, food, or whatever, that moment. But they don't think about the future. And the satisfaction is ephemeral, is short-lived. Now, look at it this way. If I'm giving you a bag of rice, or I'm giving you cell phones so you can vote for me, now you should think, don't you know that when I finally get into that position, I may do everything to recover whatever I might have spent during the election for campaigning or whatever. So the first thing, the Nigerian electorate, the voters, they need to do away with short-lived, short-sighted politics. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, we have a recycle of leaders in Nigeria. I have mentioned this initially. I think it's time to get away with the whole republic of politicians. Now, since 1960, I don't see any change in Nigeria. When you continue to do the same thing over and over again, and you don't see change, you should know that, okay, maybe it's time to move somewhere else or to look somewhere else. So the whole republic politicians, they need to go. That's the second thing. The third thing, I think Nigeria needs a patriotic leader. You need someone who really loves the country. That is what sets the Western world and the United States apart. A leader in this part of the world thinks first about the citizens. That is not the case in the Nigerian system. Whoever is in power, they think about their purse. What can I steal? Is the national cake. I've got to get mine and maybe pass on to my kid and then move on. So you need a leader that is patriotic to really have change in the country. The next thing I would say is you need someone that is competent. As I've said before, you may be educated, but if you don't know how to govern, it's back to the same thing over and over again. The Nigerian politicians, they've traveled. They've been to all parts of the world. It doesn't change anything. They go back and they do the same thing. That's another thing in order to have change. The next thing is the level of corruption. It is unbelievable. There's no way you can have a country work if the leadership is so corrupt. And it comes back to the rule of law. The Constitution of Nigeria, they need to throw it away. It's just not working. Because when you have people in leadership who believe they can steal and then get away with it, I mean, what kind of country are you running? Now, I've heard people blaming Buhari, this, Buhari. For example, look about at the foreign exchange. The dollar to the naira is now, I think, about 710 naira to a dollar. Now, everybody's blaming Buhari for that. Look, you have to remember, as the president, Buhari is the head of the executive. When you become the president of a country, you've got cabinet members. Now, in the case of Nigeria, my question is, where is the Minister of Economy? Okay, the economic minister, where is he? Who is the Secretary of Treasury, if they have one? Who is in charge of commerce? And then you also think about the central bank. Who heads the central bank? All these people are supposed to be advising the president. So we know, look, Buhari was a general, he retired, and then he took over civilian clothes to be in office. That doesn't mean he is a competent leader. He still needs people around him. So the people that are advising him, they should be blamed for what is going on in Nigeria. So to have change, you need to consider all those things that I just laid down.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. But there's still one point I don't think we've addressed as such. Let us look at, when we talk about governance, let's pick the United States, and it's good that both of you are actually from the United States. But there were certain things President Obama wanted to push through that he couldn't push through. And those things would have been beneficial to Americans. We called it partisan politics, right? We were playing the red against the blue. We were playing to our advantage. But one of the things we try to do on this program is not to make sure that we all agree on the same thing. No, but to see a different perspective. What if President Buhari is going through the same sort of thing that President Obama went through? There are strong people in government that oppose the policies he wants to put out there, right? There are strong people in the finance ministry. There are strong people in the military. There are strong people everywhere. That means that he can't really do much. It's the same thing we saw in the United States. Why are we different? Dr. Osuagwu, do you want to take that point?
Yes, I do agree with you that governance is not, I mean, it's a complex, very challenging enterprise for anyone to delve into. But before answering your question, if you look at the context of the Nigerian governance and government, as we call it today, we have two dominant political parties. You know, the one that has a broom symbol, and this broom has been used to sweep us literally into the state of economic abyss, okay, and state of insecurity, the state where life is not worth anything. Now, the other one, which is the party with umbrella, succeeded during its stage to just bring all sorts of looters and incompetent and avaricious individuals under its umbrella, and they took away as much as they can from our, Commonwealth. Now, currently now we have two other running folks, the party, the Labour Party, that shows the image of, tries to show the human face of a man, a woman, and a child. Now, just like Dr. Oshunrinade said, he's talking about a patriotic leader. But I would like to add to that a selfless leader. Once you have a selfless leader that has vision, people will key into that leader's mission and vision, and it trickles down. We have never had that before in Nigeria. The current people who are ruling us, every average Nigerian know they are in it for themselves. Now, out of all the four candidates running, the four front runners running for presidency, there is only one candidate that you can see that has generated a lot of buzz, and it's mainly because people can point to the fact that he is a selfless, driven individual who is not in this for his own selfish aims. You may disagree with him on some policies, you may disagree on some issues, but there is nobody that would disagree with the fact that this individual, in the name of Mr. Peter Obi, is a selfless individual. And that's the kind of person we need, because it trickles down to help the people that are working underneath him.
Let me not cut you there, but I will cut you actually, because we've had a lot of people contest some of the statements Peter Obi has made. And let me put it this way, actually, because I think there is a broader topic that we need to address. How do we filter out the truth in this era of social media and the falsification of content on social media? It's great that we all can come here, we can talk about these things in an open space, right? But you see some videos, they've been doctored. You don't know who said what's in reality. How do you bring good governance? I know that in the particular case of Peter Obi, some people who are in government around his time have contested some of the things that has been said about the successes that he claims. So how do we balance that thought?
Okay. I know before we started this program, we agreed to be as apolitical as possible and stick with the good governance, which is what we wanted to talk about. However, it is clear that in any political season, the first thing that flies out through the window is truth. You have a lot of misinformation, disinformation, manipulation of information to drive home your point. However, there is something you cannot contest, which is what was the impact of this leader and what does the average man on the street say? If you go to Anambra State today, there is nobody that would tell you that Mr. Peter Obi did not perform creditably well when he was a governor. And that is the reason why he is one of the few former governors today never been dragged before EFCC. He is one of the few governors today who can actually walk through the streets of Anambra without security details, because the ordinary man sees him as somebody who protected their commonwealth. He did not go there to make his wife or son or family member. He didn't make his wife to become a senator. He did not make his son to become a state House of Assembly member. He did not go there to make his daughter the head of the market women in his state. He only went there to serve his people. Is he perfect? No. However, compared to what we are looking for, a selfless leader, patriotic leader, somebody who will ensure fiscal discipline, accountability, integrity, compared to the lot of them on the ground, he is way, way ahead. And that's why he generates a lot of buzz among people who believe in what it stands for.
Excellent. Let me ask this question then. What we're talking about today is how we mobilize citizens for good governance specifically. How is your group trying to achieve that?
We have gone to great lengths to make sure that we interact with people at the grassroots level. We started initially, this group was to try to get people of like minds that what can we do? Because everybody complains, but nobody is doing everything. And everybody keeps recycling the same old politicians. We took the bull by the horn. The first thing we did was to set up grassroots movement. So in all the 36 states of the federations, we have members, and then we have state coordinators in each of those 36 states. Now, these are mainly doctors and allied health care workers. And as you know, an average doctor in Nigeria will come in contact with roughly close to 500 people a week. Now, if those doctors can spread that message about citizen engagement, about the need for good governance, about the need to refrain from selling our votes, about the need to ensure that when we vote, we stay there to make sure our vote count, it goes a long way, because a lot of people in Nigeria listen to their clerics, listen to their doctors, and we do have people on ground who are doing this. Now, one of the other things we did in these last days of INEC deciding that they are going to do the final PVC drive and close it by end of July 31st, which is another story and another issue on its own, because ideally, if you're closing voters registration on 31st, what you're telling me is that a Nigerian who turns 18 in August is not allowed to vote. A Nigerian who turns 18 in September cannot vote because of this arbitrary thing that INEC has put there. Ideally, in a civilized, democratic place, you should continue to allow people to register, because once you turn 18, it's your civic right. But we were able to get out there on the fields. Our members, foot soldiers on the ground, have been doing a fantastic job in actually mobilizing people to go and get their PVC. We had members in diaspora that have raised funds. Within a week, more than 7.5 million was raised by Nigerians who are not asking for anything in return. The establishment politicians put money into politics, they go there to loot. What we are saying is that we are a grassroots movement, with grassroots people contributing. People in Nigeria are contributing 3,000, 6,000, no matter how little it is, pull it together to insist that we want good governance. We are making sure that we are taking power back towards the people, so that when the people get there in government, we can hold them accountable. Mr. Peter Obi, I can look at him and tell him and call him out. Why? He has not given me money. It's my own money that has gone into his campaign. And my group also, it's our own money that has gone into his campaign. So we can call him to order. Unlike if he had given us money to campaign for him, whatever he does, if he is incompetent, if he is corrupt, we cannot say anything because we have been bought. But we have refused, because this our grassroots movement is based on everybody contributing their expertise, their money, and everything. For those of us in diaspora who can't be in Nigeria, our money is speaking for us because we have grassroots foot soldiers. And I think that same model should be replicated going forward. Nigerians need to take government back. The citizens need to be engaged at grassroots levels, hold leaders accountable, vote them in, vote them out if they don't perform. After a while, we'll get it right.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I'm now going to call on Dr. Segun Ebitomi. I hope I got the pronunciation right. Forgive me if I didn't. Do you want to make your point? And please, okay, before you do, please don't mention any name so we don't get ourselves into trouble specifically. And if you are making any claim or allegation, make sure you can substantiate it. Okay? But feel free to share your views.
Thank you very much. Dr. Segun Ebitomi, I'm a member of the Doctors for Good Governance. I am very happy to be here today to listen to the discourse, and I can see that this is a sign of progress. I always say that the reason Nigeria is where it is today is because the citizens have refused to be responsible for their fate. Nigeria has a way of ascribing everything wrong in the system to that amorphous entity called government. And if you ask anybody today, who is government? Nobody can hold anybody as government. I was listening to the lawyer say that, for example, the interest, the Naira depreciation, you can say is the CBN governor, not the president. A lot of people are saying, I am not government. Nobody is government. But the truth is that we are all government, because whichever government is in power, you either voted them in or did not vote them in. So if you did not vote them in, if you did not vote, you are in a way casting a vote for them, because you are not casting a vote for the people that will defeat them. So for the first time now, we're seeing a lot of citizen engagement. And I can tell you, according to data from INEC, at least over 10 million new PVCs have been acquired in the last few weeks. Now, the importance of that is that for the first time, I just want to emphasize that that concept that Dr. Osuagwu just touched on a bit, but it's a massive paradigm shift. So for the first time, we are seeing people come together, gather their resources, and tell somebody, look, we want you to come and serve us. A lot of time, people forget that these people we elect into office are supposed to serve us. So when we neglect our responsibility to get people in to serve us, and we wait for them to buy our votes, there are talks that some of the political party candidates paid as high as 5 billion naira to buy delegates. Now, how can you wait till and that person becomes president, and you now go and tell him that 1 million children die every year? He will look at you and say, I need to recover my 5 billion naira first before I think of any child that is dying. So every Nigerian has the responsibility to do the research. For example, the candidate that I'm supporting, nobody has marketed him to me. Nobody in my life. I just saw my classmate arguing about some candidates, and I said, look, why are you arguing this other candidate? They are all the same thing. They said, okay, what's your choice? I had to go and do my own primary research to find out who makes sense. So everybody has the responsibility to go and do that research. Nobody should be telling me, you know what, they are all the same. They are not all the same. And if you care to look,
pick up a point there, Doctor. Let me pick up.
In 1 minute, I'll finish. In
Go
1
ahead.
minute, please.
Go ahead.
So the first thing is each individual citizen has the responsibility to go and do research and find out who makes sense or not. That's one. Second, each individual citizen has the responsibility to go and get their PVC within the time frame that INEC has stipulated and vote on that day. Third, each individual citizen has the responsibility to disseminate the information, to tell everybody within your circle of influence, this is the person that makes sense. As a Nigerian, if you have not done these three things, you don't have any right to complain about the standard of governance that you get from every government. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your submission there. But there's something I want to pick up there, and I'm going to pass this to, I'll pass this to Dr. Oshunrinade, because again, you talked about education, that there have been some of these leaders we have are educated. But going from what Dr. Segun talked about there, I cannot but ask the question that we're talking of a group of doctors. You're talking about the fact that you did your own research, but you're a doctor. Majority of the people on this call are doctors. You are part of the top 10% in any country. When you look at professions that are the real solid professions, they are in the top 1% or top 10%, sorry, in most countries of the world. Right? You would think about it. You would look at the detail. You would do your own research. But the average Nigerian who is sitting down on the roadside, right? That guy's not going to do no research. All he's going to live on is the person who drives by and who sprays money in the air. My point is this: the level of education of the populace who are able to make the change is low. Now, Dr. Oshunrinade, how do you address that scenario? And then we'll go to Matthew Olani, because I can see your hand up. We'll come back to you. I just want Dr. Oshunrinade to respond to that point.
Well, you still need to educate the people. They have to look at their own lives. If you're a middle class in Nigeria, is your life better? If you're a poor person in Nigeria, how are you surviving? Now, maybe you have lived 30, 40 years in Nigeria. Has your life been better? So until you start telling people, you continue to vote for the same people, what change has it brought to your life? Because you have to touch that. When it begins to hit people's pulse, when they go to the grocery store, they can buy what they really want. They can only buy what they have at the moment. So if your life has not changed, if you are having a hard time to even pay your children's tuition, maybe they are in higher institution or secondary school, or you can't even pay for the WAEC or whatever that they need, you should begin to question, what am I doing? Is Nigeria better for me? So until you start educating people to see how the impact, how the people in government, the leadership impacts their personal life, that's when they begin to see the reality of things. And then they begin to question the establishment. They begin to think about the need for change. So you have to really explain. I mean, sometimes I pity the senior citizens of Nigeria. For example, there's nothing like social security system. You have some senior citizens as beggars in the street. You have people asking you, calling you, saying, oh, please, I can't pay the tuition of my kid or whatever, all those things. So the Nigerian populace needs to be educated about how leadership impacts their life before you can ever see change in the country. That is how I see it.
Right. Thank you for that. I want to go to Matthew Olani. I can see 3 hands that are raised up. Dr. Segun, I don't know if that's from before. But if possible, I will appreciate if we can put our cameras on, if possible. If not, I'm not mandating that. But if possible, it just makes it better for us to connect with the person that's talking. If not, I'll understand that. Matthew Olani, do you want to express your points?
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, all. First of all, I'm very honored to be in this meeting. I was sent the invite by Barrister Ibe Kirian. I'm in a very dark place and it's raining over here. But first of all, while in school then, a professor of mine said something. He said, Nigeria is not a democracy. Nigeria is a democracy. He said there are three types of democracy. There's a democracy project, democracy process, and democracy proper. He said Nigeria is a democracy project in the sense that most citizens just have democracy in their mind. They know what democracy is. They aspire to have democracy, but they have not tasted democracy. And democracy process is when you start realizing that you, aside from having it in the mind, you have to work to achieve the democracy. And in this point where we are today in Nigeria, 2022, going to 2023 election, I can truly say we are in the democracy process. We've seen that before this time, most Nigerians, the average Nigerian, I'm an average, in fact, I'm below average Nigeria. I'm a first class graduate for political science, the first in my department, and I don't have a job. And we are plenty, and we are so many of that that fall in this circle. Now we've seen that obviously the process, the whole election and electioneering process in Nigeria have been rigged in a particular way to favor the elite politicians. And now somebody came out. Somebody, since we said there's no need for us to be mentioning names, but somebody came out, and we've seen that person coming out, INEC in the past 10 years, last 2 months, the INEC chairman was in RIS TV. He said in the past 10 years, they've spent billions trying to give voters education, citizens education, orientation for them to, the need for them to have their PVC. But all these have had little or no impact. But all of a sudden, somebody decided to contest an election. And now there's a tsunami. They cannot compel or they cannot control the amount of voters or persons coming to get their PVC. That shows that the democracy is now a process. And aside from that also, there's one thing I want us to understand about what is going on right now in Nigeria. Nigerians, the normal Nigerians are eager for good governance. Why do I say so? Before now, before you tell somebody about a particular candidate, they will first of all ask you, sorry, I have to use pidgin English here, how much did they give you or how much you want to give us? That is the normal language for almost every Nigerian. But at this point in time, people are not even asking you, how much are you giving us? How much they want to give us? They wake up in the morning, stand in queue without even eating, just to get their PVC done. When they hear a particular candidate is coming to this place or we are doing something for this particular candidate, you see people willingly come out, and they will come out without hoping to get 1,000 naira or 100 naira while going back, because they know that at this point in this country, things are not getting bad, things are bad. We don't have security in the country. That is a fact. The economy, obviously, my friend always say it is dying. I say it is dead. Because there is nothing about dying when, not up to 20 years ago, a dollar was about 10 naira. Now, 20 years later, we are having a dollar 710 naira. The economy is not dying. I saw a video yesterday on Venezuela. They were putting a huge amount of money in a bag. And while putting the money in a bag, the BBC reporter said that whole money is not up to $4. Now, talking about the election now, election in terms of, before now, you talked about how to make people vote and how can they protect their votes, or how are they going to come out for an election to vote without having been bought over. I will say this because I move around on a daily basis. And I know for a fact if the election is holding tomorrow, let's say, for example, election is holding tomorrow, people are going to come out to vote. But the question here is, how will they be assured that their vote is going to count? That is the fears of the normal Nigerians right now. It's not if they will come out to vote. That one is already assured. They are coming out to vote. Now they have two fears, which is one, will their vote count? Then two, hope there will be security, because obviously the powers that be, in quotes, please, they will try to use the security to hassle and harass people for the election or the electioneering process to go in their own way. So those are the things in the minds of the voters, trying to see how they will be able to vote and how their vote will be protected. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Udu Unwapa, do you want to, again, if possible, put your camera on? If not, that's fine. Can you share your point, please?
I'm not even sure I can talk at this pace. I'm not in a position to turn on my camera. I'm literally in the kitchen with a toddler. So I don't know if anybody else's hand is up. Maybe they can go before me so I can calm him down so I'm not disturbing everybody's ears.
Sure. Dr. Chagan, you were going to say something. You wanted to contribute again?
Okay, so you asked me, how do we get people involved? How do you get them educated? You flatter me by saying we belong to the top 10%. I hope that is true, you know. But I will check my bank account and I will get back to you on what I think about that. But on getting people educated, we have a movement, and the movement is each one educates more. So for example, now, as I'm sitting here, I have 500 people in a WhatsApp group on my own phone. These 500 people, I try to educate them. So they start from my friends, my siblings, my associates, everybody I know, and say, look, this is what makes sense. I make bold to say that there are 1 million educated people in Nigeria who can do the kind of research that I did and come to the conclusion on the candidate that makes sense. Now, if each of these 1 million people set up a WhatsApp group on their phone, we only need them to get to 100. We will get to the 100 million eligible voters. Everybody will get the right education. Everybody does not need to do the primary research that I did. But if everybody that did the primary research now decide to propagate that, we will reach everybody. And the basic things to say is just, number one, just as the lawyer said, are you better today than you were 8 years ago? If you are not, I make bold to tell you that a large chunk of your problem, not all your problems, but a large chunk is because of the way the governance of the country has been done. The best way for you to change the course of where you are going is to do your own little bit. Get your PVC vote. You are going to be doing a lot in ensuring that your next 8 years will not be like your last 8 years. And if 1 million of us set up WhatsApp groups in our own phone, it costs nothing. Now, for those that don't have WhatsApp, I understand just about 70-something million Nigerians have WhatsApp. We, on our own, each citizen that is engaged, that is educated like me, can go and form a group, a physical group. Just call all your neighbors. Once in a while, talk to them. Go to your church group, talk to whoever you see. It will interest you to know that we have a group in a state in the East, a group of doctors. We have about 300 doctors in that group. They are telling us that about 300 older doctors are in that state that are not on WhatsApp. We send them bulk SMS messages. We get people to go to their forum where they sit and talk to them. Because the thing is that everybody must take it as a responsibility to do campaign. Campaign is not for the 3 candidates or whatever. It is any individual that has a conviction going out and say, this is what I think makes sense. And if you tell it to enough people, they will get engaged and they will take action. And that action will lead to a result. a result that will be good for all of us. Now, going to the insecurity, a lot of people talk about insecurity. We've had 2 or 3 elections in the last 1 year. We had Ekiti and we had Oshun. There was no record of anybody being shot at polling booths. The reason why people are not going to be shot on polling booths now is that the electoral system has changed. So when people vote now, according to the new electoral law, is transmitted straight to INEC server. So a lot of the violence in the polling booth before is for people to snatch ballot boxes and go and stuff it. Now that is irrelevant. Technology has been used to solve that problem. So that's why they are now resorting to vote buying. So if it is easier for them to just come and stop the voting process than to spend a lot more money than to buy vote, they are buying vote now because if any Nigerian decides to vote now, the vote will count. So I think everybody should disabuse their violence and all. It is going to be very safe, I can assure that. So everybody should just take a stand and implement that stand. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for that submission there. Let me come back to our panelists. Dr. Osuagwu, let me go back to a point that was raised earlier. We've talked about the later generation that we have. We've been recycling leaders. Then let's say we go back to the next generation, which is probably the generation of those of us on this call. And then we have maybe the much younger generation that are coming up. How do we help to shape and to model their mindset to what good governance looks like?
Thank you. You can never get far without educating people. And part of education is also making people to understand that, look, if somebody else can do it, I can see myself in that individual and also replicate and make it work. Emmanuel Macron of France, if he was a Nigerian, he will never be Nigerian president, because the way we have institutionalized our presidential elections in the past, it has always been ancestral candidate showing up. It's no longer old men, it's no longer, these are people who are ancestors, who are almost in their grave. The past president, or I shouldn't even use the word the past, but the current president spent more than 6 months or an extended period of time in the UK for medical reasons when he should be governing a nation. Now, some of the candidates who are actually running also have spent more time outside the country for health reasons, which they have failed to declare. Now, there's nothing wrong. Anybody can have health reasons because we are not made of machines. But at least you owe the citizens that due diligence to let them know, disclose to them, this is what I have, this is what I'm struggling with. But none of them is doing that. So, but back to your question, we need to keep encouraging people and educating them. Barack Obama was in his 40s when he ran to become the president of the United States of America. And people looked at the substance of what he brings, what vision and what policies was he trying to change. So when Nigerians gather together and have this misconstrued thought that, oh, this person is not experienced, this person has experience, what does this person bring? Does this person appear selfless? Is the person patriotic? Is the person accountable? Can the person show you previous evidence of competence in what they have done before? And most importantly, does this person have integrity? Warren Buffett would tell you that when he's hiring people, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how good you are, if you don't have integrity, the other two qualities run. He does not want to deal with you. So integrity, accountability, fiscal discipline, selflessness, patriotism, somebody who is willing to get people motivated to want to do good with a vision, somebody who people can look at and say, you know what, because of this person, I will try to do my own little part to make Nigeria a better country. And it's already happening. INEC has never had this good. They are having citizens taking charge, driving people to INEC offices to help them to get PVC. Nigerians are paying to do that for people who cannot go. They are taking INEC officials from their offices to local government areas people are not able to get their PVC, get them there. We are paying for INEC officials to get data. We are paying to mobilize them to go. Why? Because we believe in this vision that has been crystallized in form of one man who has come out to say, it is doable. We can do this. We can do this. So, and I think that's the key thing. We need to keep educating our citizens that, look, it's doable, especially the younger people. We can't leave this and fold our arms anymore. Things have to change. The country is almost bankrupt. We are using more money to service debt than making income. And we have people lining up telling you that they are going to continue the good legacies of the current government. What good legacies, if I may ask? Insecurity, bad economy, devalued currency, no jobs. We watched an individual who, Mr. Olani, who had just told us about how he had a first class. And of course, the picture he painted there, despite the fact that he appears to be an intelligent young man, looks bleak because the country has not provided the enabling environment for him to thrive. We cannot continue like this. Things have to change. Nigerians have to wake up, take the bull by the horn. We have to take our country back from these old establishment people that have ruined this country. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I'm not sure if Dr. Idu is ready now to speak. I can see, I think you've joined again under another name. Are you ready to talk?
Yes, I am ready to speak, but I think Providence made the speaker ahead of me speak first. I just want to stand on protocol, say hello to everybody, but really, really thank you guys for taking the bull by the horns to pull this meeting and all the other meetings together. I'm joining from Docs for Peter Obi, just to say how I got in here. My particular take is everything that I've heard is correct. What I want to emphasize is that, you see, what you're talking about, having to educate people. There's some things that, when I come and hear, oh, bitter leaf, they've now found out in bitter leaf, you have this, that. And I say stuff like, my grandmother could have told you that. Trust me, we don't need to tell the uneducated, less fortunate people in Nigeria that things are bad. They're not our problem. These people are suffering. They want this change desperately. Where we have problem are those middle people who are benefiting off the treasury of our government and are so blindsided by the fact it done better for me. I don't care about the other man. That's where our glitch is. I'm a very practical person. Tomorrow, PVC is done. Unless we're able to jimmy that lock with the courts to reopen PVC registration, our focus now has to go to winning the hearts of the middlemen. And when I say this, what do I mean? It does not matter how many of us vote and how well we vote if the system to vote is going to be corrupted. Now we have electronic transmission that is automatic. How is that going to be? How is that going to be broken? That's where our focus should be now. How are we going to win the hearts of the PVC voters, PVC holders who are being offered astronomical amounts of money? How are we going to get PDP and APC members to pull out and come into LP? I know some people don't want to mention names, but there's really nothing to hide here. So my point is, I have 2 points to make. Let us look at this process from a panoramic view. What are the critical points of failure in this election? And this is the identifiable problem. This is how we can solve it. This is the identifiable problem. This is how we can solve it. Now, coming to education, I think that the bigger bang for our buck is educating our jaded brethren or citizens over here. There are so many of us that have given up on the Nigerian project here in America. Now, why am I saying this? Peter Obi and Ahmed Dati, do not
have the kind of money they are going to need to beat Tinubu and Atiku. In my mind, there are two things that have to happen. We have to build a war chest that is going to astound everybody, number one. Number two, we have to turn those two parties against themselves so that we can split them. Why am I saying this? It doesn't matter if you give the average poor Nigerian a seed today and say to this person, this seed is going to plant, grow, give you shade, give you shelter, give you food, blah, blah, blah. And you give him that option and he looks at it and agrees with you, but his belly is rumbling. He's going to cook it and eat it because he has to survive today to be able to survive tomorrow. So I am saying that we are preaching to ourselves in many ways. Effective communication is the thing I'm thinking, the thing I'm saying, the thing you're hearing and understanding and taking action up, they all have to match up. So all of what we're saying, it makes sense to us. When you go out there, the practicalities on ground don't match up. We can educate our people, we can bring them there, but we have 9 short months. So we have to have multiple streams. We must educate, yes, but you have to meet some needs. And then we have to get crowdfunding, such as has never been seen before. And that is, we need to come back to our ophthalmologists, emergency room nurses, pharmacists, business people, IT people here, and understand that, look, if we do this, they may have trillions of naira, but our thousands and tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds, and in some cases hundreds of thousands, when we pull it all together, we'll be able to match them. Because make no mistake, this election needs money to be won. It doesn't matter how purist you are. That's why I said, P2B know they give shishi. Yes, but shishi is needed for the groundwork that needs to be used to put this structure that we're amazingly seeing to work. It cannot be so cerebral. It has to be cerebral and practical. So let's look at the panoramic view from top to bottom. The INEC official, the polling agent, the person who is manning MTN, who is inducible to shut down MTN on that day, the person who's going to jimmy the machine so that it doesn't work on that day, the person who's going to lock up the office, the person who's going to come and shoot and steal, where are the places? If you sit down and look at a project from top to bottom, you can see the risks, you can see what can go wrong. And with that knowledge, we say, okay, plan for this, plan for, there will still be things you can't plan for. But if we anticipate, this is espionage as far as I'm concerned. We're fighting for this country. And we have to be very, very practical and stop preaching to ourselves and, high-fiving ourselves on social media and sharing videos, all beautiful to inspire people. But everybody on the WhatsApp group is inspired. If you're on that WhatsApp group, you're inspired. So go and find the uninspired people. Go and find the jaded people and do something about it. That's my talk.
Thank you very much for your comments there, Dr. Idu. Unfortunately, we're almost running out of time. In fact, we've practically run out of time, but thankfully, I can take some liberty here to extend this for a little bit, because there's some things Dr. Idu has said, but I also want to hear from our panelists before we shut down the program today. It feels like, and Dr. Osuagwu reached out to me about this program, it feels like we should have a continuation of this conversation and to help to push this out. But something strikes me, and this is a rhetoric question to what Dr. Idu has said, and that is the fact that, yes, we raise the money. Okay, yes, we're able to get people together through the work you're doing, right? What are you going to use the money for? How are you going to ensure that you don't become a victim of the same things of trying to pay people off to make sure that your views and your position goes through? So that's just one thing from what you've said that comes to my mind. There's so many other things which we would not be able to explore tonight. But Dr. Oshunrinade, do you want to give us a parting shot just before we close the program this evening on your views on where we are, what the future should be, and what those immediate steps should be.
Yeah, thank you. I think if you look at the case of Nigeria right now, you have an emergency situation. There's insecurity in the country. There's unrest, bandits everywhere. People are being kidnapped. It's almost like Nigeria is moving towards a failed status. That's my reading of the whole thing. Now, looking at all the candidates that we have running right now, it's sad to say, but I just can't endorse any of them because I consider them all part of the establishment. What record do they have? They passed how many decades now since independence? We're talking about the same thing over and over again. Look, on the election and order, I listened to what Dr. Hidu just said. I think Nigeria needs a campaign finance reform. Before you can do anything, that needs to be done. But how can you even get that done if you don't have the right leadership in place? You can't just be having people buying votes, giving food for votes. It doesn't work in a civilized world. It's wrong. So there must be a campaign finance reform. Now, having said that, I'm not endorsing anyone, but so far I saw something in Peter Obi. I can see the traits of leadership. Why? Recently, I saw like a town hall that he participated in, and he was listening to ordinary citizens, taking their questions. That's number one, because you have to start at the grassroots. You have to let people know that you know their experience, you know the problem they are going through, the issues they have. All those things are very important. That's number one, is talking to people at the grassroots, taking questions, responding, just like a normal citizen. I can see example of the same in the Western world. In the United States, you see politicians, they go to town hall, they go to their districts, and they listen to people. That's number one. Number two, Peter Obi is doing his research. He has been talking about the state of the economy in Nigeria. He even made a travel. I think it was in Egypt or somewhere, and talking about the state of the country, how to deal with insecurity, how to fix the economy, how to move Nigeria towards a manufacturing economy. Sort of. A good leader should start thinking about those things. That's what sets him apart from people like Tinubu. And so I'm not endorsing him. The only problem I have right now with Peter Obi, because I don't know his track record, but I consider him part of the establishment. Why? Because he was in power in Anambra State, and I can verify all the things that he achieved. Because I've been hearing different kinds of stories. Okay, so that's where I stand.
Okay,
now, if I can just conclude with this, I think the Nigerian populace need to wake up. They need to take the country back. If they don't do it, I hope they don't have a situation whereby the military takes over again. Now, there must be an end to the whole republic politicians in Nigeria. That is the only way you can move the country forward. The populace, the citizens, they have to be well educated on the importance of voting. They should know how the choice of leadership they make impacts their life. So I wish Nigeria well. Yeah.
Thank you very much for those comments. Before I go to Dr. Osuagwu to give some last comments, there's a comment here on YouTube that Dr. Osuagwu, I'd love you to respond to before your final comments. And that this person is saying that there are definitely strong issues on ground. And as the speaker has said, we must be practical and very creative. Logic alone will not work and has certainly not convinced anyone. We need real conviction and action. Please do not sit on the fence this time. We've been on the fence far too long and it hasn't helped. How do you respond to that comment, Dr. Osuagwu? And then you give us your last comment before we close the program this evening.
Well, I mean, the person who put the comment did a brilliant job in actually answering his own question also by, we have sat on the fence for too long, and that has gotten us into this abyss which we find ourselves, both economically, in terms of security, in terms of the quality of life of everyday Nigerians. So we cannot afford to sit on the fence. The ordinary citizens, market women, Okada riders, anybody on the streets of Nigeria needs to understand that power resides with them and not to the old establishment. And if they can go out, get their voters card and ensure that they vote on that day and stay back and ensure that their vote count, we will start seeing those changes that we want. And I'm glad that Dr. Oshunrinade, even though he said he's not endorsing any candidate, which is fantastic. I admire Dr. Oshunrinade. He's a very cerebral, very intelligent person. And but I'm glad that he is very, very obedient to the fact that we need to have good governance in Nigeria. And that's the beginning of the way to enact this change we have been all looking for. We need to be obedient to the idea that we need to have good governance in Nigeria. Now, the elective process, which had in the past, has failed us. It has fractured our nation, it has balkanized things, and made the country to a place where we are almost in a state of war and bankrupt. Now, the next election, presidential election coming next year, might be an avenue for us to actually crystallize that dream and hope that we want in Nigeria, a Nigeria that will have a selfless, patriotic, accountable leader who has integrity and is willing to take us towards that committee of nations where we'll be respected. A leader that can actually stand tall among presidents without worrying about what CIA might have in their dossier regarding their past criminal enterprises or past shenanigans that they have done in the past. We can do this because power truly belongs to the people. We need to get everybody out there to get engaged to ensure that we are all obedient to the cause of institutionalizing good governance in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Osuagwu. Thank you, Dr. Oshunrinade, for being here today. And to all of you who have been here on YouTube, Facebook, all the different media. Someone's just saying Peter Obi is part of the establishment, is most incorrect. Saying Peter Obi is part of the establishment is incorrect. His track record is available for everyone to verify. So yes, there are conflicting views. There are different opinions. That is what this platform is about. I have just shared the link to our website, tmeinsights.com. Like I said at the beginning, the idea is not for us to all agree on the same thing, but for us to have perspectives that we can consider and help our decision making in the future. Thank you everyone who has been here across all the different platforms. I'm sure we will do another session on this particular topic as things evolve to get us to the place that we're going. And on that note, I will end the program for tonight. Thank you, everyone. I will go out on a few. Let me just see any last comments I need to bear in mind. No, but thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.